So we're about to go into a conversation with some of GottaBe's clients, and they have already taken the first step into multicultural marketing. So this is a really brilliant chance to get a first insight into how brands, products and services can make that first step into marketing towards diverse ethnic groups. So please can I welcome aboard our first guest, Wojciech Olejniczak from Pol-Plan. And of course, Pol-Plan is part of a plan insurance set up specifically for the Polish market. So please welcome Wojciech. And next we have Hey Broadband, and we would have had the CEO, Marta Comas, in for us today, but unfortunately, with everything going on with the airline industry, she's stuck in Barcelona, which isn't a bad thing. So we have Tomasz Dyl on behalf of Hey Broadband, Key Account Manager. So please welcome Thomas back to the stage. So thank you so much, and for being a part of today's first panel discussion. So briefly tell us about what it is Pol-Plan and Hey Broadband do.
Absolutely. Welcome, everybody. Hello. So my name is Wojciech, and I represent a company called Pol-Plan Insurance. We are part of the A-Plan Insurance Group, and effectively we are an insurance broker. About 15 years ago, just more than 15 years ago, we realized that there is a massive demand for insurance coming from the Polish community who have arrived in the UK straight after Poland joined the European Union in 2004. And that was the reason when we found that, well, okay, maybe we should do something for these guys and start something and start helping them understand what they buy, because insurance is something, especially car insurance, especially home insurance, is something that most of us, or pretty much everyone, needs car insurance. Whoever's got a car they need car insurance. They need to understand what they're buying, how the whole process looks like, etc., etc. And this is what we came up with in 2006. And yeah, and the rest is history as well.
And
at the
Tom,
moment, sorry, can I just?
Sorry.
Yeah, we've got over 30,000 clients.
Wow.
Right now.
Brilliant.
So, yeah.
And Thomas, if you could please take it away for us with Hey Broadband.
Yeah, certainly. I'm not as good as attractive as Marta would be, sadly, on the panel, but I will fill in as the account director and looking after the account. So Hey Broadband is one of the sort of new companies that is sort of broken down in order to. Sorry, I think my microphone's not working. In order to obviously help and connect a lot of the disadvantaged areas to bring up a super fast broadband. So 20 times faster than your normal connection, and unlike the sort of BT connection Sky or anything like that, it's about actually bringing full fibre to your house. So I'm delighted to be speaking on the behalf today. And we started working with Hey Broadband about 5 months ago, and we're now rolling out a brand new campaign, and what we're going to be discussing today is focusing around the Southall, which is one of the newest areas which is becoming connectable for Hey Broadband in the UK.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for giving that introduction. My first question goes to Wojciech. So you are a business that's set up especially to serve one target audience. What would you say was the barriers or any challenges you faced when starting this journey?
Well, the barriers or the challenges that we experienced at the beginning of our journey are pretty much the same as they are now. The recruitment and training has always been a challenge. Making sure that because it's a service that we offer, we have to make sure that our people, our consultants, they know what they're talking about. They have, well, it would be good, and it's always great when they know more than the clients. So that's always a benefit. So that was the first, and I suppose at the moment it's still a challenge. But another challenge at the very beginning was, how can we get people to hear about us, that we provide such a great service. We train all these people, we hired all these fantastic team, and how do we get to those people? How do we get to those people? How do people hear about us? Majority of our clients throughout the years came from recommendations. That was great, but at some point we realized that people, they stay within the same communities. And when we did an analysis of our clients, of our existing clients, we realized that we kind of have the similar group of people. And at one point we just decided, okay, how can we get to those who don't fit certain, who are from outside of that recommendations group.
Brilliant.
It's still a challenge. It's still something that we're still sort of learning and exploring, trying different things, and that's where we are now.
Brilliant. And of course, my next question goes to Thomas on behalf of Hey Broadband. So as opposed to Pol-Plan, who are set up specifically to serve one target audience, that isn't the case with Hey Broadband, but you have found that the areas that you do serve is predominantly of a certain ethnic minority group, and you have targeted your marketing campaigns around that. How do you feel that would help you if you was to expand your services and go into a different area?
Yeah, certainly. I think just to address that point, first of all, is whenever the company is building a new network, the first thing they do is look at the sensors, look at the information that's available and who is actually in that postcode. If we take Southall as an example, I don't know if anyone's familiar with Southall, but it's one of the only places in the whole UK where actual signage are in both languages, English and Hindi. So obviously there is a huge South Asian audience that we need to be targeting. So the first thing we recommended to them is to actually be able to have the conversation and to be able to start translating messages so that they resonate with the audiences. But of course, if we move to other area, which is, for example, Horsham, which I don't know if anyone from Horsham, because it's popular around the Adlands world, it's very affluent and not very diverse at all. It's white British, typically 65 plus, who obviously not going to need information translated. So we don't have one fit-all approach. Every area that Hey Broadband launches is individually treated, and we look at individual areas and the languages and desires for those audiences. So that's why it's important to be able to analyze it, look at their information, look at what's there, and be able to appeal to their audiences, as opposed to just having a blank approach. Brilliant.
So that was a very informative answer. You've both done so well with Pol-Plan, and Hey Broadband is recently launched. What are the key learnings that you could, like piece of advice you could give to other brands who are trying to start out today?
I think I've started it. Do your homework. Find out who's the audience you're talking to. Find out what proportion of people there are that you're targeting, the areas. And don't have a blank approach, and don't just assume that if you're going to talk to specific groups that they're all going to be watching ITV, they're going to be tuning into Channel 4 or reading the Evening Standard, because that's the biggest problem you have. If you're going to talk to diverse audiences, consider the channels that they consume. So if you're talking to the LGBTQ community, things like Gay Times, Attitude is definitely where you want to be. If you're talking to the South Asian community, you probably want to consider, whether that's if it's the Indian community, probably things like Eastern Eye, which we'll learn about more later. But if it's the Polish community, go where they are. Go with, I think Wojciech will agree here, go to those channels where they're going to do. Of course, what you also find is with a lot of the ethnic minorities, they actually have TV channels, but they don't necessarily watch the British channels. They actually watch their own channels. They are widely available across Sky, or they bring their own boxes, smuggle them in their hand luggages, and bring them and connect them here, and off we go. We are able to connect and live like we were back home. So I think do your homework is number one for me. Secondly is also adapt your marketing to the specific groups. So again, don't have a blank approach towards the copy, towards the pictures. Make sure they're actually representative of the audiences you're talking to. And I think this is a really simple marketing, and I'm not here to teach you this because you guys probably got a lot more experience than I do. But when it comes to the ethnic minorities, I'll certainly recommend that you need to be able to actually appeal to them in the way that they look, feel, and very often it's about nuances that you can address, because that will really be welcome and hit home very quickly.
Wojciech, same question, key learnings.
Sorry, I've made it harder for you, probably.
No, that's absolutely fine. I mean, the fundamentals, you have to stick to your fundamentals. You have to make sure that you do your homework, like you said, all the segmentation, targeting, and positioning of the product, it's got to be there. But in addition to that, that product, I would probably say the product has got to be, or product and or service has got to be spot on, and that product has got to appeal to the audience that you're trying to target. That's the main thing. And also, Thomas briefly touched on on the fact that you have to be where you can, where the target community is, and this is what we've been doing with the Polish community. We have been trying to be part of the community, sponsoring local events, sponsoring local charities, being part of the family picnics, be out there, to be the feet on the ground, and walk the floor with your potential clients. They may not come to you straight away, but at some point you just get your brand out.
And I think if I could just add one thing, is that events are a fantastic way of getting your name out there, both from the perspective of actually being able to talk to a large group of people, but equally to be able to use that as a market research tool. It is phenomenal what you can find when you talk to people, when you give them a free product, when you give them a sample, and you get them to talk about it. Equally use that as an opportunity to learn about problems that these audiences very often face. Talking about a different client from GottaBe, we work with Severn Trent, which is a local water provider in the Midlands area and up north. And one of their issues we found is people were afraid to talk to us about sewer problems because it's not something that they felt comfortable. But when we did events and we advertised to say to them, we're actually here to talk about sewer problem, we had a queue of people because they all felt that they were there and the company was there to listen to them. And because we provided them a native speakers, they were able to actually hold a conversation in native languages. Because the language is also a massive barrier for a lot of communities, especially new audiences that are coming into the UK now, whether that's the Ukrainian community, the Afghan refugees, or even with the Polish community, there's still lack of English. So don't just assume that advertising in English is a great thing, because if you open any of the ethnic publications, you will always find that there's always going to be one ad that will stick out in English, and the rest of them will be translated. That's just lazy work.
Well, that will bring us nicely to our next session as well, talking to media owners a little bit later. But before we do, any questions from the audience? Yes.
Thank you. I just had a question around product, because we don't have to go into detail, but I was just wondering how significantly different is the insurance product for the Polish community, or is it much more about the positioning and things like that? Did you find that you needed a different product or just a different way of selling?
A bit of both. A bit of both. Initially it was difficult to convince insurers to design something specifically for Polish or for our clients. It was difficult to approach the likes of Aviva, AXA, and say, oh, we've got this fantastic idea and we think that it's going to work, and can we have something special? No, it didn't work like that. Only after a certain period of time, we said, we've got this client base. We feel that they've got special needs in a good way. And those needs were, well, what we found was that a lot of our clients went back to Poland not only once a year, but 3 times a year. They drove back to Poland, and majority
crazy thing to do.
And the majority of the standard car insurance policies only provided 30 days European cover, or some of them didn't provide European cover for free of charge. As a standard of the policy, you have to pay extra. So we had to come up with we knew that we didn't want our clients to pay extra for this service. So we approached few insurers and said, well, okay, can we somehow come up with a policy that will cover that sort of need? So this is one of the ideas.
And I think if I can just use it from the perspective of the broadband, when we're communicating to different groups, we look at their usage. So, for example, for the South Asian community in Southall, we're pushing on live streaming because I know they like cricket. We also know they like endless conversations. So we're talking about streamless conversations, being able to use that. One of the other things we also found is about using it in multiple rooms because there's multiple devices and everything else. So we use those, but it's very different to when we go to Horsham or Hemel Hempstead when we talk about completely different usage and different target audience and the different purposes.
Any more questions? No? Okay. So is there any last thoughts you would like to say to everybody who's listening today on possibly starting, launching, or adapting their multicultural marketing? Any last keynotes?
Why is it going to me? Wojciech, come on.
Wojciech, I think you should take this question.
I'll be biased, so I'll let you.
So any last messages you would like to give?
I think one of the most important, I suppose, messages would be: don't be afraid to try the new things. If something didn't work at the beginning, maybe try to revisit at some point in time, and just if there is an idea that you have, just go for it. And some of the ideas might work, some of the others might not work, but don't be afraid to try new things.
And I think if I could just add to that, just one final thing. When we work with agencies, we don't find them as competition. We find them as extensions. And we have got likes of Edelman who come to us and say, look, we have got this particular project. We need to deliver it. We don't have the in-house capabilities to do it. We would prefer you take ownership of that, and we will either white label it, or we will be open to our client to say, this is above our in-house capabilities, let's work with an external agency. And that's when, like of us, but there is many others who can come on board. Use those guys. I think I speak probably to 3 or 4 different agencies a week who just picking up the phone and say, Thomas, this brief landed, I don't know what to do with it. Have you got any ideas, thoughts? We're very happy to give you those guidance, etc. We're not expecting you to pay for our time. We just want you to do better. And because ultimately, as I said at the beginning, everyone, let's do it together, a better job. So, if you are struggling, you don't know where to go, don't be afraid to ask. There are plenty of people out there who know this market. And I'm not just talking about the ethnic market, but same thing with, like the Purple Goat, who are amazing at working with the disabled communities. You've got agencies who are specializing in just black markets, Asian markets, or, the crossovers. And equally, you've got other markets where you can kind of target LGBTQ communities as well. So don't be afraid to ask. There is somebody out there who specializes in that.
Brilliant, absolutely wonderful, and thank you for that insightful information. Please give it up for Wojciech from Pol-Plan and Thomas from Broadband. Thank you.